But there's a reason why you hear about Stalin's famine and never about the manufactured famine that Churchill engaged in, okay? The West controls the flow of information. Speaking of which, in the Congo, so far, China has allowed one thing to happen that the American government would never allow to happen. They had a Chinese company that apparently was holding wages, right? Because they're doing the exact same shit. They're doing the exact same shit that, like, you know, Western capitalist nations have done. Go there, say, hey, you have all this cobalt. You don't know how to extract it. You don't know how to refine it. What? It's fake? The Chinese debt trap is a myth. The narrative wrongly portrays Beijing and the developing countries it deals with. Oh, no. I mean, China still gives conditional loans, though. It's the exact same conditional loan that, like, hey, we'll build this shit for you. We'll build your refineries for you. We'll literally ship our own people there. We'll build all of the infrastructure there. But, of course, you know, the alternative is, I mean, or what you have to give us is your natural resources that we extract for you and that we refine for you. That's exactly what Western nations have done. It's just what Western nations do ultimately is way more brutal and way more violent than what China has done thus far when they want to collect. The reality is that the Chinese conditions, although debt traps are significantly more favorable to African countries in the short term, like at least roads and stuff are built. Oh, 100%. The reason why I mentioned that is because there's a Chinese company in Congo, okay, that was under investigation by the government for back pay. And there was a trial. There was a trial that ended, okay, and they found the company. I forget the name of the company now. Chinese company was removed as an operator from one of the Congolese mines, okay, as the investigation was conducted. The investigation ended, okay, and they were able to give over as a matter of payment. The Chinese company, Molybdenum, China Molybdenum, is that how you say it? I don't fucking know. Anyway, they were able to give the ownership of this cobalt mine back to the people, the Congolese people, for a couple months as a matter of payment. Now that is, in my opinion, unfucking imaginable. If we were talking about a nation as poor as the Democratic Republic of Congo, in a comparable nation that is so open to soft power influence, but also just straight up fucking statecraft, espionage, assassinations, and whatnot. If an American company was ripping off a country that was not poor looted, correct, a country as looted as the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they wanted to fucking do a court ruling, and say, like, the American company is not, the American company needs to, like, engage in some kind of back pay, some kind of compensation, they would fucking blow up the court. Okay? They would literally be like, hey, what's up? It's really weird that now, like, ISIS Africa is operating in your country, inside of your borders, and killed the judge that was adjudicating on this process. And also, on top of that, now we have to put a military base there to stop ISIS Africa. Oh, so weird. Yeah. What? ISIS Congo? That's crazy. What is this, like Boko Haram 2? And for people who think that I am exaggerating, ExxonMobil literally did this in Nigeria, okay? Oh, no, it wasn't ExxonMobil, it was Chevron. I'm sorry. Stephen Donziger wasn't ExxonMobil, it was Chevron. Apologize to ExxonMobil? No, the Nigeria rebels that were being utilized by ExxonMobil. I'm trying to find the article on it real quick. Anytime some shit happens, they will just, like, use a rebel group or a different warlord to fix it up. Apologize to a corporation like my contract. Guys, they're joking. Like that person is literally joking. Oh, fuck, it wasn't Exxon. God damn it, it was Shell. This is what I was looking for. Fuck! Okay, now I do have to apologize to ExxonMobil, okay? I'm sorry to, RIP to ExxonMobil. I apologize. I was over here looking for the crimes of ExxonMobil in Nigeria. It was actually Shell. I'm so sorry, okay? I apologize. Also, just kidding. No, I don't apologize. ExxonMobil is still responsible for fucking climate change. Get the fuck out of here, dude. They're literally demons. I apologize for nothing. Suck my dick. Anyway, in comparison to what American corporations have done in Africa, South America, all around the world, what China is doing seems like baby shit, okay? And that's why the One Belt, One Road initiative has been so profoundly successful. If you don't want China to be the hegemonic superpower, then stop fucking these countries. But because you fucked them for so long and you keep fucking them and you can't stop fucking them, then when someone else comes along and says, hey, we're not going to fuck you as hard, they say, I'll take that deal. I'll take that fucking bargain. That seems like a good idea. Of course I'm going to fucking trade with you. Yeah, come build my infrastructure. Who cares? We don't have a history of you literally enslaving my people. We don't have a history of your troops coming in and killing my people. We don't have a history of you destabilizing this nation. And on top of that, you're going to give me better loans than the Western world has given me. You're not controlling my central bank. We don't have a history of your monarchy fucking literally enslaving my people, cutting their hands and ears and shit. Okay? So yeah, I'm going to fucking work with you, China. Of course. And then Americans get so pissed. They get so mad that like China's doing this. It's like, wow, this is fucking bullshit. This is fucking bullshit. And they should be scared. Okay. Shell accused of fueling violence in Nigeria by paying rival militant gangs. Oil company rejects watchdog's claims that its local contracts made it complicit in the killing of civilians. Shell has fueled armed conflict in Nigeria by paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to feuding militant groups, according to an investigation by the oil industry watchdog platform and a coalition of non-government organizations. The oil giant is implicated in a decade of human rights abuses in the Niger Delta, the study says. By the way, ExxonMobil is absolutely fucking literally responsible for this as well. They are a part of this. Okay, now let's look at the debt trap in Africa.
In the past 2 decades, China has built large infrastructure projects in almost every country in Africa. And this has made Western critics uncomfortable.
China and Africa can forge an even stronger, comprehensive, strategic and cooperative partnership.
A common portrayal of China's lending
Optimus Prime
practices
J, thank you
is
for
known
the
as debt trap
10 gifted
diplomacy,
subs.
a phrase made popular after being used in government documents during the Trump administration. The so-called debt trap is created when a country lends to poorer countries, intentionally overwhelming them with unsustainable debt, forcing them to surrender strategic assets or concede increased political leverage. But so far, there's no evidence that such a debt trap has been sprung in Africa.
Now, there's always a certain grain of truth, like with every stereotype to it, but it breaks down very, very quickly upon any type of serious examination.
The focus on debt trap diplomacy is part of wider Western anxieties to...
Guys, you can't fault the American government for thinking that China is operating in exactly the same ways that we do, okay? If you are a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. And sometimes you look at other people and you mistake them for hammers as well, okay? Maybe they're a screwdriver. Maybe they're not a hammer. That's what's going on here when they say China is doing debt trap diplomacy. And I have been saying this for a very long time. If you've been in this community for a long time, you already have heard me talk about this. We don't know what China will do when the checks bounce, okay? Or we don't know what China will do when America decides to, fund a fucking coup in a country because they want more preferable treatment from the government instead of the Chinese mines that they own. What if America were to do USSR style nationalization initiatives in a country? And in an effort to get to the nationalization, they would beef up communist paramilitaries, do a coup d'etat, and then do a second coup d'etat on the communist paramilitaries, and then privatize it again, but at the behest of Western nations this time around. I'm obviously spitballing here. Who knows what the fuck they would do? That's not been done yet, but I wouldn't put it past them. I don't even know if they have the mileage anymore to be able to pull shit off like this. Why hasn't America done this in Africa? What do you mean? They have.
We've already seen that Chinese investments in Chinese infrastructure projects have been linked to increasing Chinese influence within the host country ruling elite. That may end up becoming somewhat of a leverage point for China to push some of these countries or ruling elites to side with China on critical issues that are important to the US or to its allies.
But while the US has focused its Africa strategy on aid and social services, China has been building.
African governments themselves said, we are tired of aid and charity. We want to do trade. We want to be treated like partners. The Chinese came along and said, great, we don't do aid and charity. We want to do business with you.
Global Gateway will mobilize 300 billion euros till 2027.
Now, the US and Europe are answering back with their own infrastructure initiatives to counter China. But
Oh, come on, bro. Oh, dude, what happened? I thought China was the one who fucking stole IP. What's going on, brother? You can't be. Well, we will do 2 belts and 2 roads initiative. How about that? Okay. You know, 1 belt, 1 road. Okay, how about 2 belts and 2 roads? Okay, that is right. Yeah, we're giving you 2 belts.
Experts are skeptical.
At the end of the day, China has been that guy around the corner with, a bouquet of flowers to Africa, the US, Europe and the UK have time and time again said, be careful of the flowers you see out of the window. They have thorns on them.
In Ghana, the handover of power from the British government went off smoothly and with dignity.
From the 1950s into the 1970s, countries on the African continent gained independence from their European colonizers. US and European-led organizations like the IMF and the World Bank funded much-needed infrastructure across the...
Yeah, this was sick, dude. I mean, this is always sick. So when I say conditional loans, or when we say debt trap capitalism in countries like this, what this means, okay, is first of all, the independence is completely conditional. It's always a fucking puppet. And then that puppet is basically throwing its fucking labor force as a newer, more gentler kind of slaves at the fucking problem to use their labor power and labor force to extract the natural resources, okay? And these building projects that they are engaging in do not belong to the nation. The building projects that they are, these infrastructure projects do not belong to the nation itself, but still belong to Western corporations. They're building it for Western corporations at the behest of Western capital and done through the same like supposed loans that we are giving them, okay? We give them the money, and then more importantly than just giving them the money, we say you have to pay the loans back, but also you are going to use this money to pay Western corporations. So we're giving you this money, but the money has to be used on Western corporations. You can't be using it on your own. You can't be doing whatever you want with it. And then also on top of that, we are going to make sure that you can't, if you want to, like, I don't know, socialize medicine or, build infrastructure for yourself or build fucking hospitals or anything like that, we're going to say, fuck no, we have complete control over your economy and you have to implement austerity measures now. We control your currency. We control everything that you do.
Continent.
So those are some of the conditions of an IMF payment. Now, or an IMF loan. Now, the difference there is the level of control that China has over the country with their loans, what the conditions of a Chinese loan looks like, and what the infrastructure projects with a Chinese backing looks like.
But that slowly stopped.
The United States and Europe kind of backed away from infrastructure in the 60s and 70s. It's something that we did very, very well for a long time in the post-war era. We built vast amounts of infrastructure throughout the world. And one of the things you see in Africa is that so much of the railways and the highways and the infrastructure was built during the colonial period. And back then it was quite solid, but it's been decrepit because the former colonial governments are not plowing in lots of money.
Enter China. As early as the 1970s, Beijing began building the Tazara Railway, a link between the Zambian town of Kapiriamposhi and Dar es Salaam port in Tanzania. At the time, it was the longest railway in sub-Saharan Africa, allowing Zambia to ship copper, bypassing white-ruled Rhodesia and South Africa. It also gave China much-needed political allies.
Beijing said, we have problems, you have problems, we will help you out. And they embarked on this. And this is really some of the early seeds that China sowed in Africa that later, came to clearly define the divide between the West and the East as far as China's involvement in Africa is concerned.
In the early 2000s, as China looked to expand
The infrastructure they built was just to more efficiently extract resources. Of course, dude. That is literally, yeah. But that's what China is doing too. Don't misunderstand the situation here. Like, it's not like China's fucking building roads and shit specifically for the goodness and the kindness of like the people living in Ghana or any of these other countries. Like, they're doing it specifically because they want to more efficiently extract resources. But it's how you extract those resources that is where ethics kick in, and what you do.
Land markets and political influence abroad, its investment in Africa ramped up.
The Chinese said, well, guess what? We are the best in the world now at producing large-scale infrastructure.
And yes, D. Darshan is correct. The reason why local African governments don't have the money to build their own infrastructure is because in order to be a part of the global market, you have to let America and Europe do your resource extraction. How much you give back to the country and how much autonomy you allow the country to have will greatly improve your chances of legitimately becoming a competitor. But of course, it's in the best interest of every country to keep you down. Obviously, they didn't get the same head start given the prevalence of, in the most reductive terms, the Maxim gun and the colonial superpowers coming into Africa and starving it and enslaving it. So now, with the lack of reparations and making these conditional loans come across as reparations while still taking all of that wealth back to the Western world and using it specifically for resource extraction, using African nations as like a mediator in the conversation, and not actually allow them to see their own profits in their own grounds. That has kept these countries poor. That's why, yes, another chatter said Africa was looted. It's not poor, it was looted. It's true.
Fast and cheap. And we have a surplus of capital. So we'll loan you the money. We have our great contracting companies. We have all of this skill and all this ability to deliver fast and cheap. And in that sense, it was really an ideal match. They recognized what Africa's development stage was, and they said, you know what? 30 years ago, that was us. We recognize a lot of what's going on here. You don't have enough infrastructure. You have a large population that's growing quickly. Also, let's not underestimate, there is a shared history here of anti-colonial struggle. So you tick all of those different boxes, and Africa made a lot of sense for the Chinese to come in.
China is currently involved in an estimated 35 African countries and has made significant contributions to their infrastructure, including ports, railways, and power plants.
Using that logic, you can also see that Africa had 100 to 200,000 year head start on the rest of the world. That logic, the fuck do you mean? It doesn't matter. If it didn't develop by way of trade, in a way, or for a multitude of different reasons as to why certain fucking countries, due to weather or proximity to one another, were able to fucking, develop faster. And then once imperial powers decided to engage in the act of colonialism, they just ripped this entire continent to fucking shreds and stole everything. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like, you think that it's, first of all, the reason why that person said what he said is because he's pointing at a very racist idea. And that idea is that, like, Africans somehow are inferior. That's why they, despite having a 200,000 year start, were not able to fucking build themselves. Or the idea that, like, because humanity started in Africa, technically that, like, what, they're enslaving themselves? They just, they evolved into white people elsewhere and then came back and enslaved themselves, technically, right? Like, it's fucking insane. You're trying to find a justification for colonialism when, you're just a racist piece of shit. They did have a great start, just not in the Industrial Revolution. The richest person ever was in Africa. It doesn't matter. What matters is when they had a fucking great head start, it's not like they were doing to European countries or the original developments of Europe what Europe did to Africa, okay? That's the difference. So shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter that the richest person on the planet was in fucking Africa at a certain point. It's like the golden age of Islam happened, okay? But now, when you look at the Middle East and the MENA region in general, and you look at even like Asia, it literally doesn't matter because that development has halted greatly as a consequence of imperialism, okay? You understand? Pointing to it by being like, well, this is where civilizations were born. What the fuck is a silly notion. Slaves were not only black people. Oh my God. Okay, dude. I know. It doesn't matter. We're talking about chattel slavery. Okay. Europe is also full of peninsulas and mountain ranges for protection. It's in the perfect place to grow with constant invasion. Africa has a lot less geography to its advantage to grow like Europe in a world marketplace. People don't get how golden age of Islam directly caused the white Protestant Christian supremacy that during the Industrial Revolution colonized the world. That's why I always say culture is shared, okay? It's a completely shared concept. I don't know what's going on. I think Twitch is breaking a little bit. We're not seeing sub badges. And also, not only that, but you can't send any links right now, which really sucks because at the top of the hour, there's a 60-second ad break. I hope it doesn't serve an ad for all of you when I do run that ad break. Anyway, here's the 1 minute ad break now. If it runs an ad for all of us, we should sue Twitch real quick. Is it running an ad? Did you guys see it?
It's estimated that China has invested more than $340 billion in Africa. So compared to how much China is investing across the world, this may not be as much, but for Africa, it's a lot of money because of the huge infrastructure gap that Africa faces.
But there are noticeable differences between Chinese financing and how the West lends, historically with low interest rates and flexible terms.
There must be over millions of different types of loans out there. But if you were to take an eagle's eye view of the different kinds of loans involving Chinese lenders, then you can broadly categorize them into 3 different types.
The loans fall into 3 categories: zero interest loans offered as aid, concessional loans which have a lower interest rate often intended for large infrastructure projects, and the most common, commercial loans with higher interest rates in line with what you would get from a typical private bank.
One of the very interesting trends that
You're wrong about Muslims not doing imperialism in the golden age of Islam. They just did it in South Asia. It wasn't as brutal economically. No. I was talking about Western expansion, which there were efforts to, but, you know, they didn't succeed in the same way that Western countries were able to fucking rob and destroy Africa. Nothing compares to that.
Discuss Chinese,
of course they did a lot of imperialism.
There's a tendency to bunch all 3 together. Well, the very first question you should ask yourself whenever you see something like that is, well, are they comparing apples to oranges? Because if you're comparing commercial loans to something available from the World Bank or one of its different agencies, then you're not really comparing like for like. And the fact of the matter is this, and I hope the borrowers out there are listening, 95%, if not 99%, the loan agreement are there in favor of the lenders, no matter who you deal with. This is because by the time you sign that loan agreement and you get the money, you'll have the money in your hands, and the only thing the bank will have is a piece of paper. That is why the loan agreements are in their favor.
In one report which analysed 100 Chinese contracts, it revealed that the loans are structured to give an advantage over other creditors and allows action to be taken if the borrower acts contrary to the interests of a People's Republic of China entity. There are also unusual clauses that shroud agreements in secrecy.
When you look at multilateral lenders like the World Bank and the different agencies, they're
talking to me about who Turkey colonized. Bitch, you think I don't know? 1453, best year of my life. Turkey colonized Syria, Iraq, Palestine, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, the Hejaz, Aden, the Gulf Coast, the Caucasus region, Greece, Macedonia, Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Bosnia, Hungary, southern Ukraine, and the Crimea. They tried to colonize Iran, Italy, and Austria as well. Considering what the Ottoman Empire did to be colonialism, like what fucking France or England or Portugal or Spain has done, is laughable. Sorry, it's just not even. Like, you can say I'm a fucking Ottoman supremacist or whatever the fuck, or you can say I'm biased, but you are literally ahistoric in your approach if you think that any of these countries are even remotely comparable to what the Western world has done. I will absolutely stand by that, okay? It's like comparing chattel slavery to the fucking Devshirme program, okay? Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. You do not understand what the fuck you're talking about if that's your take. When you talk about Armenia, of course, that's a genocide. Okay, that 100%, that's a genocide. Yes, that is comparable to the colonialism that Western nations have engaged. But calling that colonialism is dumb, because there's a different terminology for it. It's empire shit. It's just straight up empire shit. But it comes across as though you were defending Western colonialism when you make that comparison. But as far as like the Ottoman Empire, of course it's empire. Like they did some fucked up shit. I think your view on the Ottoman Empire is skewed by your early education. No, of course no. The Ottoman Empire absolutely, without a doubt, did fucked up shit. You're crazy to say that they did not. Okay, that's what empires do. Why are there suddenly 28,000 experts on the Ottoman Empire? It's just how it is, baby. Like motherfucker said, the Ottoman Empire colonized Palestine, right? Like. That's hilarious. Literally go ask a Palestinian person if they would rather be under the fucking rule of the Ottoman Empire right now, or what the British Empire has done to Palestine. Like, can you imagine dropping Palestine in that fucking convo? Like, are you kidding me, dude? Are you fucking insane? Wild. Go ask Palestinians if they would literally beg for fucking Ottoman rule right now. Fuck it. You can literally ask the average, even North African countries that were also closer to colonialism than anything else that you've pointed out thus far. Even half of those fucking countries right now would say, hey, maybe the bargain that we engaged in with the British and with the French was not exactly a great one, considering that they told us we would get sovereignty, and that just meant, being under their rule. As a Bosnian, even though you guys subjugated us for 500 years, at least you gave us Islam, alhamdulillah. Oh, that's funny. King Leopold cut off the hands and feet of African men and women and children in the Belgian Congo. Not the same as Ottomans at all. West was terribly cruel. Yeah, I mean, the Ottoman Empire did some fucking, of course, it was an empire. They did some fucked up shit. There's the eunuchs in the fucking harem, for example, which wasn't like common practice in comparison to like the mass production of fucking chattel slavery, using humans as straight up slaves, or nearly as perverse or as popular as what King Leopold was doing. Or even fucking Christopher Columbus. But, there were still eunuchs in the harems. Literally did that. Adana Massacre, Al-Jawazi Massacre, massacres of the Albanians of the Balkan Wars, massacre of Aleppo, Armenian genocide, attack on Serbs during the Serbian-Ottoman War. Of course, this is all valid. Straight up, I don't know if you're like copy-pasting Wikipedia page, but yeah, you're right to say that is unacceptable. That's empire shit. It's also not comparable because the Ottoman Empire no longer exists and Turkey is nowhere near the power it did 200 years ago. Of course. But there's a reason why you hear about Stalin's famine and never about the manufactured famine that Churchill engaged in, okay? The West controls the flow of information. Just remember that. Like, most of you have no fucking idea. Anyway, let's continue.
Shareholders are countries, and they're required to publish their lending and activities just to be transparent. They don't have any choice. On the other hand, when you come to commercial banks, then you'll see a very different case. And that is, banks often are under a duty of confidentiality to their clients. I think the Chinese banks are no different.
But the rush to give out loans.
You are biased because of your Turkish education, and Chad is biased because they have no education. You can see the difference in religion. Most of those former territories of Ottomans are still Christian, but Europeans enforced their religion pretty harshly on the territories they conquered. Yes. I didn't want to get into that, but that is the main difference between Ottoman imperialism and other imperial powers in that same time period, or even further after that same time period. The idea of like doing missionary work was not the same thing. I mean, there certainly was still conversions that occurred, obviously, in the name of Islam, but the most you got was a tax, an additional tax for not being Muslim, which is far more preferable to the fucking mass enslavement, murder, and forcible fucking re-education of all peoples that you are subjugating. Another fun fact is that the Ottoman Empire historically was always a friend to the Jews and routinely opened up its doors to Jews that were escaping pogroms throughout history. So much so that, if I'm not mistaken, Herzl, I believe, originally went to the emperor at the time to ask for Palestine. So there's that element as well, which of course they said no to. But isn't that a factor of Islam and not the Ottomans? Islam makes explicit carve-outs to protect people of the book and other monotheists as long as they are not idol worshippers. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
loans by the Chinese has meant some of their early investments weren't as profitable as projected.
So when China stepped into the field, it was much welcomed by the developing world that there would be increased financing for infrastructure. However, with the rush to get projects off the ground, to put them into action and to begin construction, critical due diligence was often left by the wayside. Financial sustainability,
Good call,
social and
Fizz.
environmental
Thank you. I gotta fix
assessments
that.
kind of never were done, or were done haphazardly, or were simply not transparent or available to the populations. What this has ended up causing is states to take on projects that they initially thought were affordable, but unfortunately, they've been now saddled by debt.
China is coming for its pound of flesh in Uganda.
In 2021, the Entebbe International Airport in Uganda came under fire after local media reported that the airport would be taken over by China.
Oh yeah, this is the one instance. I gotta pee.
A debt trap.
After closer examination of the contract, it was found there was no debt trap, and both sides have denied that the airport is in danger of a takeover.
I think there is an assumption that certain governments are not able to look after themselves, or they're either not sophisticated enough, or just simply too corrupt to look after its own interests. I think in my personal view and experience, that just simply hasn't been true.
Experts say more should be done by borrowing countries to make sure loans are more favorable to their interests. But the Chinese argue that the risk level is higher in African countries and greater repayment assurances are needed for loans that might not otherwise be available.
Certainly in my 20 years of experience, I've never seen a case where the Chinese bank would just say, look, don't read this, just sign on the dotted line. In fact, they will spend days and days and they're sitting with us, going through every line of the document and making sure the other side understands, because they know in 10 years' time, if they don't explain this clearly, this is going to come back and haunt them.
Certainly, there are issues with how China finances projects. There are issues around transparency, but I don't think this is some sort of grand master plan from Beijing in order to ensnare developing countries into debt and become further beholden to Beijing.
In Kenya and Nigeria, debts to Beijing are growing. These include Kenya's $3.6 billion railway from Mombasa to Nairobi, which reportedly lost $200 million in 3 years of operation, and a $1.3 billion loan from the China Exim Bank to fund Nigeria's largest infrastructure project, a 157-kilometer segment of the Lagos-Kano Railway.
Wait, do these motherfuckers have high-speed rail before we do? I'm gonna lose it, dude. Okay, that's it. I'm done. That's fucked up. I'm fucking done. I'm done, dude. I did not know. No. Holy shit, dude. Holy fucking shit. Literally better to be a colonial subject to a different fucking country than be the imperial superpower of the United States of America. Are you fucking kidding me? Not saying that the One Belt, One Road initiative is neo-colonialism, but what the fuck? I mean, doesn't that piss you off? You're an American citizen. Doesn't that make you like a little bit angry? Just think about that for a second. What have we done in Nigeria, as I showed before? Fucking Shell Corporation using, warlords to kidnap people and shit, okay? Whenever people don't act in the way that corresponds to the desires of an American corporation. China is building them fucking high-speed rail, dude. We don't even have that. That's so... Oh, they haven't. They haven't yet. No, they just... Wait, no, they do. No, this is... The Lagos one is 330 kilometers. Yeah, this is a 37-kilometer intracity rail system. Oh my God, they literally do. Oh my God, Lagos has high-speed rail. We don't. That's crazy. Oh, wow, that's fucking tight.
The government itself can't afford to finance these things. The private sector isn't really stepping up.
Bro, China, please, dude, please. I will be your colonial subject. Please, let me get some trains. Come on. Please, just take over. Just take over California. Xi Jinping, please take over California. Just cut the fucking commute down. Oh my God, imagine the possibilities. China takes over California. Okay, we become its colonial subject. Okay, California is now a vassal state, is liberated by Xi. Okay, California. Actually, they changed the name to California. And then, oh God, the traffic. It would abolish. There would be no traffic. Oh, So much public transit, dude. What the fuck? Trade Taiwan for California?
The West has not got an alternative program, so therefore China is the only game in town and the terms of the loans are reasonable. At the same time, you have members of the National Assembly, particularly from the main opposition party, vocally criticizing the government for what they perceive to be a lack of transparency around the management of the loans from China. They often articulate this worry that you hear in other parts of Africa that China will try and seize Nigerian assets in the event of a default by the Nigerian government.
Only a handful of countries on the African continent have a significant amount of debt owed to China, and most of them owe much more to private bond markets.
Africa does not have a Chinese debt problem. Angola...
Yeah, where those private debt markets centered, I think.
Weights about a third of all Chinese debt in Africa. So take Angola out of the issue, then you have an even less serious problem in that respect. So it's very important that we narrow down this problem to be what it is.
But it only takes one bad deal to affirm Western fears. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, a controversial method of borrowing based on future natural resource revenue has meant some projects have fallen victim to corruption.
Congo has a very, very significant mining industry. It's Africa's biggest producer of copper. It's by far the world's biggest producer of cobalt. Cobalt is a key ingredient in the rechargeable batteries that power electric vehicles. You hear politicians talk about Congo saying that
high-speed rails aren't worth the toxic pollution of rare earth mining and processing. Dog, I'm not like, dude, what do you mean, dude? You're literally on Twitch. You're currently on Twitch. If you're on Twitch, you can't talk about the pollution of rare earth metal mining. What are you talking about? How else are you gonna fucking you need a battery. How are you gonna fucking put batteries in your phone and everything else? Also, ultimately, high-speed rail is infinitely better at unironically fucking destroying the emissions produced by a fleet of vehicles that like singular individuals drive on a daily fucking basis. Are you kidding me? Blow up every fucking cruise ship, okay? And high-speed rail and public transit across the board. No more cruise ships and really beef up public transit. You would be able to unironically reduce a fuckload of emissions with that. Just that alone.
That we are to cobalt as Saudi Arabia is to oil. However, up until now, at least, the benefits to government revenue and the benefits to the population at large have been rather limited.
In 2008, China and the Democratic Republic of Congo agreed that Chinese companies would finance $3 billion worth of infrastructure.
I love this. This doesn't show the bad side. Bad side of it, though, they do routinely engage in large-scale corruption, routinely engage in the same mindless infrastructure building without actually looking at its feasibility, which they've done within China as well. Dude, who cares? I hate it. It's like that's got real fucking, the postal service doesn't actually turn profit energy, okay? It's infrastructure. Do the infrastructure. It's fine. The corruption side is, of course, a problem. And unfortunately, no matter what happens, you know, there's still corruption.
Benefits to the population at large have been rather limited.
This is real. This is very real. Like, it's not like these dudes, I mean, other than like the infrastructure development, the average fucking person in Congo is not realizing the wealth that they are extracting from the ground. You know what I mean? Historically speaking, though, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Up until now, at least, they prefer the Chinese loans and the Chinese development to the Western one. And there's obvious reasons why they don't like the Western one. I mean, come on, dude. It's fucking Congo. Historically, the Chinese man has not fucking cut their hands and feet. Maybe that has something to do with it, right? Shouts out to the fake country of Belgium, which is not a real country. It's just a project. It exists in the minds of people that say that they're from Belgium.
In 2008, China and the Democratic Republic of Congo agreed that Chinese companies would finance $3 billion worth of infrastructure and build a $3.2 billion copper and cobalt project, whose tax-free profits would repay both investments. China, with the help of these mines, has now come to dominate an industry at the heart of future technologies. And leaked documents reveal millions of dollars that flow from Chinese entities, including the multi-billion-dollar mining project, to the family and associates of Congo's then-president, Joseph Kabila.
If the example of Congo applies elsewhere, these companies operate with a real deliberate lack of transparency. And if they find a willing partner in a government, as they did in Joseph Kabila's government, this lack of transparency can extend to and really envelop the relationship between the state and these mining companies.
There is a lot of anxiety in the West over China's involvement anywhere, really, because it's a strong number two to the US. And
I mean, they own like 80%, right? China currently owns like around 80% of all cobalt production on the planet. That is a terrifying prospect for the United States of America. And if you watch the New York Times Daily earlier today, then you would realize that they attribute that to America being too busy with oil. And that's when China was able to, throughout the 70s and onwards, be able to develop relationships within the Congo and in other African nations that America was supposed to do, but unfortunately we didn't have enough bandwidth. Okay, literally every mining company in the continent is corrupt. Not like this is an outlier. No, this is the classic case of like, oh, it's someone else doing it, so it has to be perfect. Of course it's not. That doesn't make it okay. By the way, we criticize, once again, we always criticize American companies. We criticize West Virginia. We criticize the fucking coal miners. The treatment of coal miners in the United States of America. There is still going to be corruption, obviously, but it would be better if the Chinese government gave them further allowances to, at the very least, develop their country and give more back to their workforce. Wait, when you said the Daily today was incredible, were you being sarcastic? No, it was incredibly revealing. They just don't even hide it. Like the media is supposed to be a force that speaks out against like America's imperialist interests or whatever, right? If you watch the Daily today, you understand that the entire purpose of the New York Times is to not curb back imperialism, but rather advocate for it and also demand it, which is precisely what today's Daily was about, which was, why the fuck did America allow China to control all of the fucking cobalt production? Literally, go listen to it, and they will straight up, there's no neutrality there. There's no real interest in the experience of the people in Congo. Normally, they at least they would like act like they give a shit, you know what I mean? But they fucking threw that out the window. Gosh, it's almost like New York Times live in the same country. Dude, you are such a puppet if you think that the fucking gray lady, okay, the paper of record is supposed to fucking churn out State Department propaganda, hook, line, and sinker. What the fuck are you talking about? It's supposed to be contentious. You can't, on the one hand, hype up democracy and claim that like liberal capitalist Western nations are better than China, which is authoritarian, and all the media is controlled by the fucking state, and then turn around and be like, but when the fucking private corporations independently are doing State Department PR that's actually understandable and reasonable, then it's the same shit. Which, of course, you are correct. It is the same shit. Straight up, it is. It's just one is... one is built around the false premise. One is built around the false premise that there is like actual freedom of information flow, and that there is a genuine interest within our private institutions and the media to like actually be adversarial to the state and constantly question the interests, the foreign interests that the American state has. No, but that's not the case. That's not real. That's never been real, and it will never be real. Subs are back, baby. Let's go.
Very strong links with Africa, setting up a lot of logistical supply chains in Africa, preparing to expand its trade and take it to the next level is worrisome, because whatever happens in Africa or whatever happens in Asia ultimately can affect the world order. There's a lot at stake.
Ideology may also be on the line. Countries that receive help from the US or European multilateral development banks often require values that fall in line with democratic nations.
Anti-corruption, good governance, transparency, participation, inclusion. These are things that really matter. We should want projects that are beneficial to the populations, that don't negatively affect them. And so while it may hinder the US in being able to lend to certain countries, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
When countries in Africa take help from China, they're expected to side with or at least not participate in the condemnation of China on key issues including Taiwan and allegations of forced labor in Xinjiang.
On these sensitive red line issues, and Taiwan is certainly one of them, this is where the political...
Another nation, another superpower saying they have a red line? We don't like that, dude. Wait a minute. We don't like that. Demonstrably, we don't like that. We will go over that. We will step over that red line, dude.
Relationship becomes more evident and much more important. Africa, more than almost any other region in the world, tends to vote as a bloc in major international organizations and tends to express itself as a group, if not the whole continent. And again, this is the political symbolism that's becoming increasingly important to China from a region like Africa that is so important to the Chinese, much more so in many ways than the resources, which again aren't as important to China simply because they can buy the resources now from any number of other places. But getting this kind of political support is very important in today's geopolitical environment.
I think this is bullshit, for the record. Straight up. I think might is right, and I think whoever has the biggest dick, i.e. the best productive capabilities, wins in the long run. And I think China's interest is not about fucking gaining, like, I don't know, not letting the fucking United Nations, like, yell at them for, I don't know, doing whatever the fuck, like Hanifying Xinjiang, you know what I mean? They don't give a shit. They're going to do that. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Not that it's right, obviously it's not, but there's literally nothing you can do about it. I think that the real reason why they are slowly and steadily building these relationships is to beef up their productive forces. If you think about it from just like an Econ 101 point of view, they are engaging in horizontal and vertical expansion. If you look at nations like corporations, that's precisely what they're doing. That's what America has done for a very long time. That's what America completely destroyed for short-term profit, and that's what's going on now. I think that I think that the idea that like they need the votes of like African nations to be able to like flex their fucking political capital in the fucking like global affairs is whatever. They would rather utilize Australia than these collection of African countries. They just want, I think what their interest in Africa is more so a stronger and as the chatter also pointed out, a stronger and loyal trade partner. If you were to say that they have actually a blossoming middle class, if you want to use a fucking capitalist term, and therefore are no longer able to be a productive labor force that is, competitive with the rest of the planet, that's one thing, which is precisely why the, rate of profit has a tendency to fall in situations like this. So what do? You look for other countries that you need to develop better relationships with and continue on with the industrial capabilities that the Western world desperately relies on to maintain their profit margins, of course. The effect on the one-child policy are coming to bear. The population of young working-class people is going to go down, of course. But what? The idea that might makes right, and then the idea that the country with the highest productive capacity will ultimately win is faulty. Like, what do they win? They become the hegemonic superpower that controls the planet. Border expansion, resource expansion, migration / workforce expansion. You literally just described what superpowers do. You just described like the main goal of countries is wielding the same kind of influence that America has over the world right now, and then said like it's not a big deal. That's it. That's just,
We want to show that a democratic, value-driven approach can deliver on the most pressing challenges.
While the US and Europe haven't attempted to try and match China's investment on the continent, they have started work to offer alternatives. The EU's Global Gateway aims to supply 300 billion euros globally between 2020 and 2027. And Build Back Better World, or B3W from the US, aims to address the infrastructure needed in developing countries.
Democracies are messy. Things take time in democracies. So while authoritarian regimes such as China are able to speed up the process or able to get things done quicker, that doesn't mean it's of a better quality. And I think that's really where the US and others, and through the B3W initiative, can really make a difference, is by actually developing and building high quality infrastructure.
We believe in the nations of Africa, in the continent-wide spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation.
Yet skeptics of US and European-led projects say they're aimed at specifically targeting Chinese influence rather than working with African countries as business partners. And they lack specific information that have many wondering whether or not they'll result in significant action in Africa.
When we talk to, some of the economists that follow China and the African governments, they will tell you that there has been benefit for these projects overall for Africa. How they have been done, the terms, as well as how these projects have been got, is another story.